Growing a business is kind of tricky right now. Supply chains are squeezed, tariffs and trade policies are dynamic, and cash flow, it's tighter than ever. You need clarity to come out on top. Without it, you risk falling behind. If only you could hop in the DeLorean and see the future, right? Thankfully, there's NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite has real-time forecasting to help you move ahead with confidence. This is your AI-powered business management suite and the #1 cloud ERP. Trusted by over 42,000 businesses, NetSuite brings accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all under one roof. It's your single source of truth, giving you the data and control you need to move quickly. And with AI built in, you can automate the busy work and focus on strategy. NetSuite helps you see what's stuck, what it's costing you, and how to pivot fast. If I were running a business with a lot of moving parts, I'd use NetSuite for full control over everything. Tame the chaos with NetSuite. If your revenues are at least in 7 figures, download the free ebook, Navigating Global Trade, 3 Insights for Leaders at netsuite.com/SPI. That's netsuite.com/SPI. The perfect product launch. It's the goal for every brand marketer. High heat, fast sellout, and fans posting recipes like trophies. What do Sydney Sweeney's soap drop, Taylor Swift's tickets, and your next launch have in common? Well, they're not bought, they're bragged about. Fanfare turns your drop into a moment. Fanfare cues real fans, blocks bots, and builds launch experiences worth screenshotting. Want hype without the heartbreak? Get Fanfare's 5-step hype drop playbook with our proven success formula and make your next launch unforgettable at fanfare.io/playbook. Again, fanfare.io/playbook. Congrats, your business is doing great. All your hard work is paying off, but you need help like now, and you have to hire fast. How can you hire amazing candidates quickly? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. And with sponsored jobs, your posts jump to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach people you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. One of the things I love most about Indeed is that it has one of the largest databases of job seekers, giving employers access to a wide range of candidates. And with job alerts, I get notified when new candidates apply. And with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. So how fast? Well, in the minute that I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/smartpassive. Just go to Indeed.com/smartpassive right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/smartpassive. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed, is all you need. This is the Smart Passive Income Podcast with Pat Flynn, session number 112. I thought I told you that we won't stop. I thought I told you that we won't stop. I thought I told you that we won't stop. I thought I told you that we don't stop. Ha 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 ha.
Welcome to the Smart Passive Income Podcast, where it's all about working hard now so you can sit back and reap the benefits later. And now your host. He prefers the Disney Channel over Nickelodeon. Pat Flynn.
Still using a copy-paste website? Break the template trap with Framer. Whether you're overwhelmed by traditional site builders or frustrated with cookie-cutter designs, Framer gives you the freedom to create a site that's professional, polished, and uniquely yours. Framer is the design-first, no-code website builder that lets anyone ship a production-ready site in minutes. It's free to start, allowing you to browse hundreds of pixel-perfect templates or even design something on your own on a totally blank canvas. Add bold animations like appear effects, text effects, parallax scrolling, scroll animations, looping animations, and much more in seconds. The built-in AI handles the heavy lifting, generating starter layouts, and can even translate your entire site to any language. Ready to build a site that looks hand-coded without hiring a developer? Launch your site for free at framer.com and use code SPI to get your first month of pro on the house. That's framer.com, promo code SPI. Framer.com, promo code SPI. Rules and restrictions may apply. Do you know the secret to businesses that are scaling faster than ever? They're using Upwork to tap into a diverse pool of skilled freelancers across various industries. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts who are ready to help you take your business to the next level. I've personally used Upwork myself and can vouch for it. Posting a job on Upwork is easy. With no cost to join, you can register, browse freelancer profiles, get help drafting a job post, or even book a consultation. From there, you connect with freelancers that get you and can easily hire them to take your business to the next level. Upwork makes the entire process easier, simpler, and more affordable with industry-low fees. Post a job today and hire tomorrow with Upwork. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That is Upwork.com to post your job for free and connect with top talent ready to help you grow your business. That's Upwork.com. Again, Upwork.com. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is session number 112 of the Smart Passive Income Podcast. I'm so thankful you're here. And in case you're wondering what that song was I beatboxed at the beginning of the show, it was the Bad Boy remix of a song called Only You by a group named 112. One of my favorite R&B bands from the 90s. Brings back a lot of great memories, a lot of memories of me standing on one corner of the gym during a dance and the girls standing on the other side. But anyway, that's a whole different story. Now, before we get to today's episode, I do have something very special to share with you. This is something that my team and I have been working on for the last few months, and actually I've spent a few $1,000s to create this and make this happen. A brand new Smart Passive Income mobile application is now available for you to help make your life easier when it comes to consuming Smart Passive Income content. This includes the Smart Passive Income podcast, the Smart Passive Income blog content, and also my other podcast, Ask Pat, all in one convenient spot. What you could do is you can go in there and see all the content. You could filter through it all, only get what you want. You can get notified when new content comes out. There's a podcast player there that's really, really cool that allows you to speed through the shows if you want. And it's just great. Everybody who's downloaded it so far since the launch earlier this week is loving it. 4,000 or 5,000 people have already checked it out, and I know that you're going to love it. So head on over to smartpassiveincome.com/app. You should probably stop this episode right now and go to iTunes and look for Smart Passive Income, or go to smartpassiveincome.com/app, download it, and then resume this episode and see what it's like and tell me what you think. I know you're going to love it. Currently, as of today, I'm recording this in June 2012. It is only available for the iPhone. Now, don't worry, Android users. I made the mistake last time of not building an application for you, and that was a huge mistake because there's probably more of you. But an Android version is coming your way. But currently, it's only available on iTunes. And just if you're listening to this in the future, just go to the same link, smartpassiveincome.com/app. If the Android version is available, you'll go to a landing page that has both options there for you. One more time, smartpassiveincome.com/app. I know you're going to love it. Now, let's move on to today's featured content. I have a great interview with a guy who has an amazing story his name is Matt Donley, and he runs a site at mastersketchup.com. And I really resonate with this story because I actually used SketchUp myself quite a bit when I was still working in architecture. SketchUp, you'll hear Matt explain, is a software that allows you to create 3D models and stuff, and then you could print them or you can turn them into different renderings for photorealistic images and all these cool things. Well, Matt created this site on the side. He had a 9-to-5 gig before, but then February 4th of this year, he sent me an email that said, Pat, I'm about to let go. So he was giving me this information about his business that was doing really well on the side, and he told me he was going to let go and quit his job, which was awesome. I was so happy for him. And then a week later, actually just a few days later, he sent me another email that said this: oh crap, I'm so terrified right now. My boss is really disappointed. I feel like I'm giving up on the team. I was expecting to feel so much happier right now, but I just feel awful. I hope it gets better from here. I wish I had someone to talk to who actually understands what I'm doing. Everyone is acting like I'm completely irresponsible or don't know what I'm doing. They don't understand that I've been planning for this outcome for 2 years. So it's crazy because, you know, he's been working so hard. He's been doing great with his side job. And then all of a sudden he feels like he's sort of ditching his other employees. But really, he took control finally. And then he sent me an email a month later that said, Pat, unemployment is great. Things are going well. And he showed me some numbers that were just staggering about how his business was doing. And what I love most about this story, like many of the other stories and interviews I have here on the show, this is another case, another example of somebody who's building a business by providing value to somebody in a way that's different than just, hey, here's how to build a business, or here's how to build a blog, or here's how to be an entrepreneur. This is somebody outside of that space who is generating an income online by sharing information that he or she has learned that is useful for somebody. You know, very, very similar to my story getting started online, sharing information to help people pass the LEAD exam. Well, Matt's helping people understand how to use this software, which a lot of people are using, and it's growing. And he's even getting recognition from the parent company, which is awesome. So let's just dive right into it. Here's Matt Donley from MasterSketchup.com. Matt Donley, what's up? Welcome to the show. How are you?
Pat, this is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I've been a longtime listener. Really, I consider myself like a student of yours, you know, because I've just been following you for so long and applied so much of what you have taught. And I've applied it. And, you know, because of that, I've gained success with my website. So thank you for having me on the show. This is awesome. I'm really excited to share my story.
Oh, this is going to be fantastic. I was just looking in my email archive actually when I was trying to figure out what your Skype address was or Skype username, and I saw that we've been talking for quite a while. Since April 2012, we've had some conversations via email together, and you know, I was looking back at some of those emails. I mean, you've progressed so much. I mean, you've gone full time with us now, and let's just go right into your story. How did you, or what were you doing before what you do now? Like, how did you get started with all of this?
So I've kind of always been interested in the make money online. You know, just somehow I knew, you know, I had to figure out how to make money online. I've always been interested in web design and that sort of stuff. I mean, even when I was in like middle school, I learned HTML like back in the late 90s, you know. And so I had always kind of messed around with web design. Throughout high school, I actually became a carpenter, you know, so it was like completely different from making money online. I never did like web design as a service or anything. It was always like a hobby of mine. And in high school, I started to learn how to program just because I was so interested in computers and online stuff. And I tried to build a couple of different, custom built like web apps, really. And, you know, though I built those up and they just turned into these big monsters. And I didn't even get to launch them. They were just so like out of control. I had to just drop them, you know. So this is really like my third like really big attempt to make money online. But yeah, my background is really in construction. I was a carpenter doing roofing, siding, interior, exterior, like, you know, a little bit of everything. And I never went to college. I went for about 2 months and dropped out. I started my own business doing carpentry, for a while. So I kind of always had that entrepreneur kind of, within me. And, you know, it wasn't until a couple years ago when I wish I could remember how I discovered Smart Passive Income. But I do remember that I read an article on your site once, and then a few weeks later, I somehow stumbled across your site again, and I had remembered that I had read an article earlier, and I said, "Oh man, yeah, I remember this." And then from there, I just kind of started becoming a regular follower, you know.
But at that time, you were still a carpenter.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing carpentry up until about 3 or 4 years ago, and where I switched over to more of a project management position with a commercial cabinet company. So we would install cabinets and stuff in schools and laboratories and hospitals, and I was working in an office, and I would get to go to job sites and stuff here and there, but mostly it was like an office job. And I would get to use this program, SketchUp, which for those who don't know, SketchUp is a 3D modeling program. So 3D modeling is like, you know, creating an object on your computer, but you can like spin it around, you know, and actually interact with it as if it's like a real 3-dimensional object. And the big thing nowadays is like 3D printing. So like, you know, if you want to print something out on a 3D printer, you would model it in a 3D modeling program first, like SketchUp, and then bringing it out to a 3D printer. But so I was using SketchUp here and there. And, I guess the thing that really kind of triggered me to start, a website about SketchUp was, when I found your site and I really connected with what you were doing. And I thought, if I could only emulate this in a different niche, I knew I could make it work. I knew I could do it. And I needed to find, what's my unfair advantage. And I know you wrote an article about this last year on, unfair advantage. And I said, okay, what is the one thing that I could create a website about that I know I could absolutely just knock it out of the park and just be the best at it,
Mm-hmm.
And I just figured SketchUp is the thing that I'm going to do. It wasn't a decision of like, okay, this is how I can make the most money or what's the best market to get into. This was like kind of the happy medium between knowing like what I could do the best at. And, I knew that there was somewhat of a market there for me to earn an income. And then I just went with it. I think actually the thing that kicked me off was you did a reader challenge where you challenge your readers to interview someone. And there was a big construction convention coming up in my area. I live in Rhode Island, and there was a convention coming, and there were going to be like these kind of like superstar carpenters who kind of travel the country, in that niche. Everyone knows who these guys are. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna go and interview these guys. And I just went to the convention, and I had like a letter prepared, to explain about my website and everything. And I just went for it. And I went up to the guy after he did a presentation, and I said, yeah, I'm Matt, and I'm launching a website today on SketchUp, and I'd love to interview you. And he said, sure. I was like, oh,
Nice.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that's how I launched the site. So
Was that Gary Katz?
yeah, that was Gary Katz.
Yeah, I'm looking at my email. The very first email was from you about that reader challenge, and it seemed like just you needed something. I mean, I feel like it was always in you. You just needed somebody to tell you to go and do it, and that was your first step. And sort of what happened after there? Like, what was that interview like? And then how did you take that and build your site around it?
So, I mean, like probably everyone else who's listening to this episode, like not much happened, like I launched my website, and for about 3 or 4 months, nothing really happened. I really didn't get a lot of traction.
Were you producing articles? Were you creating videos at that time?
I was doing a little bit of both. So most of my content strategy, nowadays I tend to try to create most of my content are tutorials. So they're actual step-by-step instructions on how to do something in SketchUp.
Mm-hmm.
And what I try to do is create a video and a written tutorial and launch those at the same time. It takes a lot of time to put the stuff together, because I'm doing screenshots and annotating the screenshots and stuff like that. And then doing the videos takes a lot of time, because you have to plan it ahead of time. You have to actually model what you're going to teach and stuff like that. So, but that's been my strategy. And I think part of what I think got me to gain traction was just having the mindset of what I want my site to look like when I'm successful, and then just acting like I'm already succeeding, like acting like I already have thousands of people coming to my site. If you do that from the start and you treat your website like it's already, getting all that traffic, then, that's really going to show when people do show up to your site. They're going to see the level of quality that you're producing, and, it's just going to grow from there.
Right. I love that tip, because I see a lot of people who start new sites, and their first post is a very timid sounding post, like, hey guys, like, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm sort of just doing this because I feel like it might. And, what kind of impression is that giving to a first time visitor? You want to be confident in what it is that you're producing and the content that you're pumping out there right from the get go. And I love that is the mindset you had. And I also love that you said that nothing happened at first and it took you time. Yeah. Was there a few, or maybe even just one specific moment when things just started to sort of blow up for you and explode? I mean, in a good way?
Well, actually, I want to tell you a story about my first comment on my site. Just talking about like getting started and stuff.
Sure.
Everyone, you always get those spam comments, coming into your site, and you feel down when you realize that, you think it's an actual person, and then you realize it's just like a spam bot. But my first real person who ever commented on my site was like the absolute worst person I've ever come across, and it scared me half to death. It was a comment. So SketchUp used to be owned by Google, and so the thing that's somewhat risky with what I'm doing is like the trademark term SketchUp is in my domain name.
Yeah.
And I know, Pat, you've had that trouble with Green Exam Academy.
And we've had this
in the lead.
Yeah.
It was in the lead before, and you had trouble with the trademark. So I definitely was taking a risk by having that there. And so I got this comment from this guy, and he was like, I don't know who you think you are putting that trademark in your domain. I work really closely with Google, and if I were you, I would take that down straight away unless you want a nice big lawsuit on your hand. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am in so much trouble right now.
Uh-huh. We've had email conversations in the past about this specific issue.
But I ended up you get obsessed over those things, and I just Googled the guy's name, and I found some other comment from that he left on some other site that was just totally off the wall. And then I started to think, okay, he's just a little bit crazy. So, the moral of the story is don't let stuff like that really bring you down. Just focus on, putting out the best content, and, and the quality, just set your bar as to what you want your quality to be at. And then just go from there.
Sure. I mean, that's great advice. But I want to ask you, I mean, it is a risk to have a trademark in your domain name. I know this from experience, like we just said. Was there something you did to be comfortable eventually with having SketchUp in your domain name?
Eventually, as I grew, one of the big things that started happening for me was SketchUp started, noticing me. The actual company SketchUp started noticing what I was doing, and their social media department started seeing what I was doing, and they started sharing my tutorials and stuff like that. And once I got to a certain point, I had conversations with them, and there was never any real legal statement saying yes, you have permission to do this, but we have sort of a loose relationship where they're kind of okay with me using it, because they see that I'm definitely helping out their program and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's still a risk. It's definitely a risk. I wouldn't recommend people putting trademarks in their names. So yeah, it's definitely a risk that I took.
Right. I mean, I think the big lesson here is that you were able to contact this company, or actually eventually talk to them. They knew who you were. They knew you were using it, and it was okay with them. The scary thing is that any time they could switch up if they maybe change CEO or go on some legal string where they target everybody, which is what happened to me. But still, it's important that you talk to them and you sort of knew and had this understanding. There's a lot of companies out there that will be okay with it, and I think there's mixed feelings in my head about this, because when I had a cease and desist letter in my mailbox from the United States Green Building Council for using LEED in my domain name, it just didn't make any sense to me, because like you, I was providing a ton of value to everybody. I was actually helping people take the test. I was making people feel more comfortable to take the test, which means that they would actually end up making more money, because some people didn't want to take it because it was so hard. But that's what they wanted to do. And so I had to deal with that. But anyway, moving on. I mean, you've got Master SketchUp, and you started to produce more content. And how are you doing now? Give us some numbers as far as, how well the site is doing.
So, for the first year and a half, my site primarily, I would make money with AdSense. And that's how I started out. I started making money with AdSense, and I was actually obsessive over it. I started that was, I think, actually part of what really helped motivate me. Is getting that that dollar a day, like that first goal, set your goal at $1 a day. And once you get there, then you set a higher goal, $100 a month, and in doing that really just helped me have a goal and keep moving forward, because it was really important for me to build up a brand and an audience before I attempted to create my own product. And recently I wrote a book, and I was actually I actually got approached by several publishers to write a book about SketchUp. And if that's not a sign that you should be writing a book, I don't know what is. So I was kind of kicking myself for not doing this sooner. But so I wrote a book. I decided to self-publish, and just because, as far as you just make more money by self-publishing, and I was able to reach more people around the world by having a digital. It's purely digital too. I don't have a printed copy. So I launched the book at the end of January, and within the first 3 days, I had over $13,000 in sales.
Nice.
And yeah, so it was definitely, it was a huge success. I mean, it was awesome. And now I'm averaging about $260 a day. So it's been really awesome. So
Wow.
I was able to quit my job and use this as, this, I look at this as like just the beginning, so I'm using this just as like a launching pad to allow me to be home full time and focus on this. I'm working on a video course next that's going to be probably launched next month. So it's been really exciting.
That's awesome, Matt. Well, congratulations to you with that. And I want to talk about, how long until you launched that book since you started. So how many years was that until you started to monetize that way?
It was about a year and a half, little over a year and a half before I launched my product.
Mm-hmm.
I spent 4 months writing the book. So it's a 280-page book. I wrote it as if it was a real, printed, professionally published book, because I wanted it to look that way. So, I spent my time, and all of this was while I had a full-time job, so I did all this after I got home from work and, and on weekends and stuff. And I'd write this book all while trying to keep the site going and stuff like that. So
that's really cool. How did you promote this book when you came out with it? Did you just put banners up on your site? I mean, that's what I did because I didn't know better. I built an audience, and it's really funny that you mentioned a year and a half because that's how long it took for me to monetize Green Exam Academy. It's about the same amount of time that I took to really get going with Smart Passive Income in terms of earning an affiliate income. And
Right.
I've seen over and over again this sort of year and a half to 2 year mark being the real moment when somebody can start to begin to generate a good amount of income from their particular audience that they've built over that time. It's going to be different, of course, but across different niches and on a case-by-case basis. But generally speaking, that's about how much time I feel it should take before you start really providing your own products down the road. Now, there's other people who start with the product and then they build the audience around that. Caleb Wojcik from DIY Video Guide, actually both of those URLs work for him. He started with the product and used his existing network and the people he knew, including myself, to help launch that. And now he's starting to build his audience. So there's different ways to go about it, but I'm curious to hear how you introduced your book to this audience that you've built over time. And, the big question is, okay, how you're giving stuff away for free for so long, and then all of a sudden you start to charge for something. How did you launch and what was the reaction like?
So the most important thing about what I did is I'm not an expert at SketchUp. And there would have been no way for me, and I'm a nobody. I'm just a regular guy. Like nobody knows who I am 2 years ago. So if I were to create a product and try to sell it and promote it, it never would have worked. By building an authority site like I did, I'm essentially proving to the world that I know what I'm talking about, and that I'm building credibility with other leaders in the niche. So I'm not the only website out there that teaches people how to use SketchUp. There are about 2 or 3 really strong authority sites out there that I slowly and gradually earn the respect from, so that when I finally did launch a product, they were happy to become affiliates. So that's another thing I haven't mentioned, but I have, an affiliate program with my book, where I share 50% of the profit with some key select affiliates. I only have like 5 or 6 affiliates, but they account for about 40% of the sales of the books that I've made. So by building that and doing all the free content up front and getting the attention of SketchUp and having them share my stuff, I become the expert by doing this. I wasn't the expert first and then taught all this. I became the expert by creating this. You don't need to be an expert in any particular niche to do this. What you do need to know is you need to know how to learn. So you need to know how to break things down in a way that you can teach it to somebody. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually coming from an advantage by not being the expert, because when I write a tutorial, I even do this today, I don't know every little single thing about, how to use a certain tool in SketchUp. I actually do a lot of research as I'm writing the tutorial, like most people do. When they write an article, you're doing research and stuff. You don't just know this off the top of your head. But the thing that's great is, because I'm not already an expert at it, it gives me the ability to approach it as if I don't know anything about it. And every time I come up with a question, I write it down. And so by recording that process of what questions do you ask when you're trying to learn something new, they become invaluable, because that is exactly what, hundreds or thousands of other people are going through that same process. They have those same exact questions. If you're an expert already, sometimes it's hard for you to see things from that perspective and to be able to, break it down simple enough, or to miss, just 1 or 2 key things that really makes it click with people. I've had so many people email me who have said, thank you so much, Matt, for everything you do on SketchUp. And, I tried SketchUp before and I gave it up. But once I found your site, I gave it a second shot and it clicked for me. And that, that means so much to me. But it just shows, like, by approaching it from that angle, you can provide so much more value. Now, specifically talking about how I launched the book, I learned a lot, from you and from Derek Halpern from Social Triggers, on how to launch a product. Yaro Starik, he was another one that I took some tips from. But basically, I spent about the last 2 months of writing the book. I started a separate email list, and so I already had an email list that I created from when I launched my website. And so a lot of those people got onto the new list specifically about the book. And I came up with an autoresponder that would, send out an email to new subscribers. I think it was like once a week or something. And I would ask some questions about how they use SketchUp. And I would ask them, I'd ask them for feedback. What do you want to see in this book? Send me examples of things that you do in AutoCAD that you'd like to do in SketchUp. And so people would email me files, and it would not only provide me great feedback onto things that, I should tweak and include in my book, but it also made them feel like they were a part of my book, like I was writing the book for them. Mm-hmm. So I think that really helped a lot. And towards the end, like towards the launch, I launched with a webinar. So I did a lot of promoting about the, with the webinar, and I said that there was going to be a promotion for people who attended the webinar and stuff like that. I had my affiliates get involved, and I gave them banners to promote the webinar and stuff like that. And yeah, the webinar launched, and the first 3 days were, the best days that I've had. it was a really successful launch.
You
so.
said 13K in those 3 days.
Yeah.
And was that like 3 days of consecutive webinars, or did you just have one webinar to launch and then you had sort of a 3-day process?
It was just a 1 day. It was a 1 day webinar that I used. I used Google Hangouts to do the webinar. And the thing that was really cool, the reason why I liked using I used Hangouts on Air, which I know you just did a article about that. Mm-hmm. The reason why I like that so much is you can embed the video right on a website. So what I did is I literally had my sales page, which is sketchuptolayout.com. That's where I sell my book. I had that originally when I set that up. It was like a landing page where I'd capture an email, and then a few days before the webinar, I had like a placeholder that showed, what looked like a video screen, and it said, "Come back right here on January 30th for the webinar." Mm-hmm. And so when I was promoting this whole thing on social media and all my emails, I said, go to sketchuptolayout.com on January 30th, blah, blah, blah. So that whole time I'm promoting my sales page, which actually served as my webinar page as well. So when I did the actual webinar, I had to, there was a little bit of technical stuff you had to do where I went in there and pasted in the video so the webinar could be viewed right from the sales page. But at the end of the webinar, I literally just said, okay, to purchase the book, you just scroll down, and I walked them through the whole process on how to buy the book and stuff like that. So I think that was really cool to be able to do that. But then also all of the promoting that I had done in the previous week or couple weeks all had that link there too. So people who were coming there after the fact were still, I wasn't losing those people. They were landing on my sales page.
Very smart. I mean, you did a much better job than I did. When I released my book on greenexamacademy.com, I didn't know anything about launch processes. I just had it up there. I mean, I think the coolest thing I did was I was able to figure out, because I tried to do everything myself in the beginning, how to place a button at the end of every post. So I went in the back and just went into the post.php file, and I added a button there, and I thought that was super slick. But that was like the extent of my launch process. And, I got trickles of sales, and I started to understand more about promoting, and then I started to finally build my email list, which I didn't even do that when I first started. So I made a lot of mistakes, but I love what you said. I want to cover a few things you said. First of all, in the way you teach, and that you can still teach stuff that you don't know as long as you do the proper research and understand what it's like to put yourself in the shoes of somebody who is also just starting out. And I think that's like you said, there's a little bit of an issue. If you are an expert at something and you're trying to teach, it's really difficult to know what it's like to not know that content. And so it's hard to know exactly what you need to say or what you need to teach or the steps that you need to provide. And that's where there's a book called Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath. And in there's a whole section about this thing called the curse of knowledge. It's when you know something, you can't unknow it. And so I think if you're in that case, you're an expert and you are teaching stuff, the best thing to do is to sit down and talk and actually converse with people who are just beginning to understand exactly what those questions are. But like you, Matt, with me in Green Exam Academy and even Smart Passive Income still today, I'm trying stuff, I'm learning as I go, and I'm just putting it out there as if I'm just brand new. Just like in this whole food trucker niche that I just started with security guard training, I had an advantage because I didn't know anything about where to start. So I made calls and I talked to people to figure out exactly what I needed to do, because I was pretending, or not pretending, but I was as if I was somebody who was brand new to the site and I wanted to know that information.
Right.
And so I really loved what you said there. And also, what you said about the launch process and how you got people onto an email list and started to build buzz. You started to create sort of a list of ambassadors there, which, when you can get people involved like you did, and I did that when I launched my book, Let Go, as well, it worked tremendously. And while you're also providing content and providing value at the same time and getting people involved, you're building buzz for your book. And so, of course, you had people on your webinar, and of course, people bought it. And of course, you made it really easy to do that using Google Hangouts on Air and just having people scroll down that page. That's really, really smart. I also want to talk about, I'm on your site, mastersketchup.com right now. And on the right-hand sidebar, I see a picture of you. And is that your wife there?
Yeah, my wife's behind me. Yeah.
I mean, I love seeing that. I mean, this is a website about a web application that helps you create 3D objects. And here you are putting your face here for people to see who is actually behind this website. And I'm on the About page now, and it just starts by saying why I love SketchUp, and you introduce yourself, Matt here, and you just talk very friendly, and you see a picture of your smiling face, and I could scroll down and see you interacting with people who have left comments. I mean, that you could see that that Matt is behind the site, and a lot of people, when I tell them about Greetings Sam Academy, they're like, "Oh, well, that sounds very professional. Why would you put your face on it?" Well, it's because, like you do, you're able to make a real connection with people. Tell me about some of your audience members. Like, how has it been as far as developing a relationship with them in terms of, actually, being a business that teaches SketchUp versus being Matt?
It's funny that you bring it up. I've had one person in the past 2 years that I've done this who emailed me and was like super offended about that image. Like, I don't know who that girl is behind you, but this is unprofessional. But that aside, I think it's been a big part of the success. I'm sure you can identify that I emulated that off of what you do on your site. I really connected with that you were a real person, and you're actually giving real advice from your personal experiences. And so I made a conscious decision to do that. And, one of the things I love the most by doing this sort of online business, because, there's so many different ways you can make money online. One of the most rewarding things is to get an email from someone who just is totally enamored that, you would do this and offer all this advice and stuff. And it's like something like SketchUp, like I never expected, to get like those emails from people. I got an email from someone who was retired, and you could tell he was like really depressed, and he used to be an architect, and he found my site and like learned how to draw in SketchUp, and it's like his hobby. He does it every day now.
That's so
and
cool.
Yeah, it's like I never would have expected to get something like that from someone, and so, you get emails like that, and it just really makes you feel like you're doing something special, even if it's something like SketchUp. It's not, you can touch people in your own way, however minor it may be. It's still great to know that you're affecting people all over the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are. I mean, I'm here on your page and I see 3,600 Facebook likes. I see a Twitter account with over 1,000 followers, and this is the big one here. I see a wonderful YouTube channel, a YouTube presence, and I see some videos that have nearly 200,000 views. I see some videos of just your face, and all these SketchUp tutorials. Actually, where do you get the ideas to create these tutorials? Obviously, that's a big component of how you're driving traffic and creating authority for your audience. How do you know what to create next?
That's a good question. Sometimes I'll create lists of different ideas, and I'll just kind of keep a list. I use Trello to kind of organize my thoughts. It's like a free, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's like a free service where you can kind of do like task management and organizing.
Yes.
Yes. So I use that. So I have like a list where I've got different ideas, but I think for the most part, honestly, I just get inspired, and I'll just have like one idea in my head, and maybe I'll come up with like a creative way to teach. Like I was in Boy Scouts growing up, and, actually even before that, I was in Cub Scouts, and we would do these Pinewood Derby races where you make a car, like a little wooden car, and you race it. And I thought that would be a clever way to describe the way components work in SketchUp, because they use mirrored symmetry, so like if you model like half the car, you can just mirror it and it'll be the same thing on the other side of the car. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes I'll just come up with like these little creative ideas and do it. But I guess in the past, when I first started, I did a lot of keyword research and followed all of those kind of common ways to find just to have better SEO, so the search engines would find you better. But honestly, the best thing I ever did was to stop obsessing over trying to rank for my keyword, because my keyword when I first started was SketchUp tutorials. That was like the keyword I wanted to just dominate. And the minute I realized that it accounted for less than 1% of my traffic, like today, even today, it honestly, I think I checked it the other day, it was like 0.86% of my traffic comes from the term SketchUp tutorials. And, I rank for so many other, you just get to a point where if you're building an authority site, you're going to rank on so many other things. But like YouTube specifically, a lot of people, I don't really see too many people talking about making money on YouTube. It's actually, I find it to be like, if you're going to be using AdSense as a way to make money, I actually find YouTube to be pretty interesting, because if you think about it, YouTube is a search engine, right? So imagine if, you do a Google search, and before you could click on the page to go to a website, you had to watch an ad. Like, that would be absurd, right? But on YouTube, that's totally like the norm. Everyone expects, you search for a video or something and you click on it, and it doesn't happen every time, but you watch an ad before you get to watch the video, or it'll be like an ad below. So like YouTube it's totally kind of conditioned for people to expect these advertisements. And I've got, like, my most popular video makes over $100 a month. And like that, some people build niche sites with a goal to make that much money,
You're right.
So, just by, you kind of have a lot of different avenues when you're building an authority site where you can, you have different ways of making money. And the majority, like my top, I have some notes here. So 6 of my videos earn over $20 a month. And then like my top one earns about $100. So I make about $300 a month through AdSense on YouTube alone. And then I also have like my AdSense stuff on my website as well.
That's great. I love that. Because it's, there anyway, and it's providing value, and you're able to make a little bit more money. A lot of people start out that way, and they start small on the side, and then they're also using YouTube to build an audience at the same time, getting people into an email list, and then starting to create their own products from there. So they kind of take it step by step. And so thank you for sharing those numbers. Matt, as we close up here, I want to talk about 2 things. One, I want to talk about sort of what are some of your biggest struggles right now in terms of trying to grow your business and get more traffic to your site and generate more customers in business. What are some of the top, maybe 1 or 2 things that you're really struggling with right now?
I would say my biggest challenge is, especially now that I'm doing this full time, like before, when I was working full time, I kind of had all day in the back of my head to kind of plan out like what I was going to do that night. And now that I have, so what I'm getting at is I was more focused. When I was working full time, I was actually more focused, and I think probably more productive, because I was thinking about this one thing that I wanted to do that night. And when I got home, I did it. But now, like, it's so scary to think that everything is on my shoulders. Like, I'm the boss. I'm the one who needs to make the decisions as to what I should write, when I should write, what I should be focusing my efforts on. So, it's really easy to get overwhelmed with that. So I think the biggest thing for me was to just try to break things down into smaller chunks, and to try to separate my time into 2 specific categories. So I would set time aside that I would for planning, where I would only be planning. I wouldn't be taking action. And then the other side of it would be, following my plan and taking action. A lot of times I find, when I'm not really focused, I'll be, writing an email, and then I will be distracted by something on Facebook, and then I'll go and check my stats for something, and then I'll start writing a post. And so I find if I kind of take a break, step back a little bit, and plan out specific things that need to get done, prioritize them, and then just say, okay, this is the one thing I'm working on right now. I find myself to be a lot more productive that way. So I think that's really my biggest challenge.
And then on the flip side, what is working really well for you right now? What's one thing that is just seems to be, giving you 80% of the results with 20% of the work?
I would say, honestly, is my YouTube videos. I think I sort of have an advantage in the sense that it's easier for me. Like, it makes more sense for me to do videos, because I'm doing tutorials and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I find that I get a lot of traffic from YouTube, and they tend to rank a lot easier and a lot faster than some of my written content. So I think there's not as much information on how to create YouTube videos, and because there is definitely a technical challenge behind it, but I think that's something that could be applied to every niche and really kind of ramp up your traffic coming in.
I think so too. I mean, this reminds me of episode 101 with Ken Kelly, who is a magician. Most of his traffic and his audience is now viewing his stuff on YouTube. And I feel like I am not using YouTube as much as I should. And so you'll see later this year, actually, for those of you listening, some more videos coming out. And I'm trying to figure out a way to make it more regular, as far as maybe a kind of a segment. You have your tutorials that are very specific for the different things that you do. A lot of people who are successful with videos, like Ken, he does magic tricks every time. For me, I'm sort of all over the place, and that's probably why I haven't created videos. So my plan from this point forward is to sort of create a plan. My plan is to create a plan for the videos I'm going to create and have some sort of, I don't want to say a show, but more like a segment or a particular type of thing, sort of like Ask Pat. Because Ask Pat is really easy because I just get the questions coming in and I have a particular role is to answer those questions. So it's not going to be a Q&A type thing, but it might be some regular segment that people can look forward to, something that forces me to produce content more regularly on YouTube, because it is totally untapped for me right now. And I have about 30,000 subscribers, and I haven't created a video in 3-4 months.
Right.
So I really appreciate you saying that. And I think people out there, that might be a light bulb for you, YouTube. And, Caleb is a good resource for how to create those videos, and I'll put some links in the show notes as well. Matt, we could talk for hours about this because I'm so incredibly excited to talk to you, not just because you're a student and you're doing really, really well, and not just because, I have actually used SketchUp myself, so I'm actually going to check out some of your tutorials after this, and just seeing some of your videos brings back a lot of great memories, actually. We used to build specific rooms that we were creating. Like I worked on a hotel in Vegas, and I had to build the inside of that room. And then what we did is we connected it with V-Ray to create some really realistic photorealistic shots of those things. So we would build out the room, we'd spec out all the furniture and the walls and all that, and then we would apply material to it, to the different things in the room, and we have to coordinate with the interior designer to get all that figured out and have to scan them in. I mean, it was ridiculous, but then it would just take forever. But anyway, I'm just so happy to see how successful you've been. Thank you so much for all the wisdom and the tips and strategies you've shared. I think it's really cool to see and to sort of follow your journey in this short 45 minutes we've been talking. If people want to talk to you more, where should they go, or where should they do that?
Probably the best thing is to just leave a comment on the session page, and I'll be on there, to answer any questions anybody has.
Awesome. Yeah. So head on over to the show notes, and we could talk more there. For those of you who have questions, Matt's going to be there checking them out. Thank you for that, Matt. And best of luck to you. And I can't wait to see where you and your business is headed in the near future.
Oh, thanks a lot, Pat.
All right, take care. All right, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Matt Donley from mastersketchup.com. Matt, I know you're listening to this. Just from all of us here at Smart Passive Income, just thank you so much for sharing your story and being an awesome student. I love hearing the success stories from people who have taken the content that we share here on the podcast and just put it into action. Matt, you're definitely an action taker, and I'd love to hear you and the action that you've taken for those of you listening right now. Just if you have a story to share, any way that I've helped you send me an email, pat@smartpassiveincome.com. Jessica, my lovely assistant, will make sure I get a hold of any of those, and I might potentially contact you in the future for a future podcast episode. Now, of course, if you'd like the show notes, or if you'd like to leave a comment for Matt, just like he said, leave a comment right here on this post. Just go to smartpassiveincome.com/session112. That's again, smartpassiveincome.com/session 112, and that'll take you to the show notes, where you can also get all the links and everything that was mentioned here in the show conveniently right there for you, and also leave a comment, and just, if you want, just say thanks to Matt right there on the comment section. So that'll be awesome. Also, as a reminder, get the Smart Passive Income app if you haven't already. Reviews are very, very helpful on iTunes for anything that involves, the podcast or that application. So again, to get that application, go to smartpassiveincome.com/app. And lastly, I want to do something a little fun here, something I haven't done on the podcast before, but I think everybody's going to enjoy it. This is inspired by Michael Stelzner over at socialmediaexaminer.com. He did this on a podcast, and it kind of blew me away, and I got really jealous. So I wanted to do it here as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you, after you're done with this episode, when convenient, head on over to the show notes, smartpassiveincome.com/session112. Snap a photo of yourself in the location where you are listening to this. If you're in the car, obviously don't take a photo while you're in the car, maybe after you're done, or, whatever, wherever is convenient for you. I just want to see you. I want to see a selfie of you listening to the Smart Passive Income podcast. What this will do is it'll just allow us to all see each other, because, I talk to you all the time and I don't get to see your awesome faces. I'd love to see your face. So embed your image that you take. You could do this on your smartphone. You can take an image and then plop it in there later. But you can actually upload an image into the comment system that we have on the blog. Again, go to smartpassiveincome.com/session112 to head on over to the post, to the show notes for this episode. Plop your picture in there. Just say hi. I want to see where you're listening to this podcast, and what your environment is like. And I'm going to select one random person who uploads their picture to have a 30-minute Skype call with me. I did this giveaway a couple months ago, and I just had a Skype call with somebody a couple weeks ago who had won that particular contest, and it was awesome. I love that, and I want to do more of that. So I'm going to do that again. Upload your picture into the comments section. Share a little bit about where you are and what your environment is like when you're listening to the Smart Passive Income podcast. And I'm going to pick somebody a week after this episode goes live to have a 30-minute Skype call with. You'll see it announced in the show notes after that week is over. And even after the week, I'd love to see you anyway. So I'd love to see you. Thank you so much. Can't wait to see your pictures. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you so much. And here's to you and all of your success. Thanks. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Passive Income Podcast at www.smartpassiveincome.com.
Hey guys, I'm back with Matt, and we were just talking after I shut down the recording about how he's using a tip that he learned through one of the podcasts that I had. So Matt, why don't you talk about that and how you applied it really quick?
Yeah. So listening to your podcast is like a huge thing for me. I listen to it every day on my way to work and the way home.
Thanks, man.
Episode 84 with Derek Halpern talked about the bonus sandwich. And it was absolutely key for me in my success when I launched my book. So my book is available for $39, and that's just the digital PDF of the book. And you get a couple of bonuses and sample files. And then I have a $67 package, which includes a ton of different templates and materials and all these bonuses. And then I have a $99 package, which is actually includes everything below, plus a video pre-order. So this is, they're buying something that doesn't even exist yet. And to my surprise, like, my average sale is $67. So like, the average person is buying the middle package, and there's a ton of people buying the $99 package as well. So it wasn't that much more work for me to like add these extra bonuses and stuff. I mean, you are definitely doing yourself a disservice by only offering one option, because people have different ways of making decisions on how they buy things. And by offering, a few different packages, you can really maximize the value that you're bringing to your customer and the money that you get to make as well.
Totally. Perfect. Thank you. Because I remember when I created my sort of second tier product, it was an audio book that went along with my ebook at greatexamacademy.com. And that thing sold like crazy. And then it wasn't very difficult to create. It only took a couple weeks, and I actually paid someone to help create that for me after I figured out I couldn't do it on my own. And it nearly doubled my income at that point.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Thank you for sharing that. And
awesome.
For everybody out there, have a wonderful day. More people dream about building their own business and being their own boss rather than retiring early. But a majority of them never even take the first steps to register the business. Why? Because starting a business can feel overwhelming. With legal forms, paperwork, finances, it's a lot. And that's where Taylor Brands comes in. Taylor is a complete business builder designed to make launching your business simple and stress-free. You can register your LLC in just minutes, keeping your personal and business assets separate from day one. And from there, you can get access to everything you need to get off the ground, from legal documents, licenses and permits, invoicing and bookkeeping tools, and even a 100-day business coaching program to help you hit the ground running. You'll also get a free personalized business plan, branding tools, and so much more. And of course, our listeners get an exclusive 35% discount to get started. Just head to taylorbrands.com/SPI. That's TAILORBRANDS.com/SPI. Stop dreaming, start building with Taylor Brands. I get it. You want to grow your business, but selling at scale feels overwhelming. You're drowning in complicated funnels, creating different lead magnets, or constantly posting on social media. And that gets exhausting fast, especially when you're trying to sell to hundreds or thousands of people. But what if you could sell at scale with a simple, powerful quiz? A score app quiz or assessment asks your audience key questions and gives them instant personalized results based on their answers. Your audience gets to know where they are now and shows them the steps they need to hit their goals. You can set up a quiz in minutes using Score App's templates and have a powerful lead magnet that'll do the selling for you. The best part is your audience actually wants to take this quiz, and you build huge amounts of trust before you even make a single offer. No hard sales, no chasing leads, just value at scale. Get 50% off the first 3 months using the discount code SPI. Just head to scoreapp.com/SPI. Again, that's scoreapp.com/SPI.